strangers, we wanted to give you a heads up that the following episode was pulled from the catalog of bonus episodes from our first podcast, Sauntering Vaguely Podwards. These bonus episodes were called Aziraphale's Extra Research and covered different topics that came up in the universe our podcast centered on, the world of Good Omens.
That being said, these episodes will be laid out a little differently from our typical Something Strange episodes, but the content should be pretty similar to what you're used to hearing from us. Also, just a warning, these episodes will contain spoilers for both the novel and Amazon Prime show, Good Omens, so if you haven't watched or read yet and you want to, maybe skip these until you do.
Enjoy the episode. Today's topic brings us back to the beginning, both in Good Omens and biblically. We are talking about the Garden of Eden and the creation story. All right, so before we kind of hop into the extra information on the Garden of Eden, Christiana, what do you know about the biblical creation story and the Garden of Eden?
Really not much. I know Eve supposedly came from Adam's rib. I know Adam and Eve were the first two humans, according to Christian creationist story. They were the first two humans, and they were put into paradise, and Eve did a bad thing and was tempted by a snake, who I assume was the devil, or Crowley, whichever, and she ate an apple, and God said, no, 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 and yeeted them both out of the garden, and they both suddenly realized they were naked.
You have a lot of the main points. Now, as with most Bible stories, there are a lot of things that we think we know about them, but it's just kind of like the zeitgeist passed down.
Yeah.
So we're going to kind of do a deep dive into this story because there's a lot that we subscribe to the creation and the Garden of Eden that's not actually written.
Mm-hmm.
So before we do that, though, my sources for this episode can be found in the show notes. Specifically, I am using, as always, the novel, the script book, and the show Good Omens, the HarperCollins Study Bible, and a textbook called The Bible, A Historical and Literary Introduction. Also, I didn't directly use the source, but if you're like me and you absolutely are fascinated by religions and belief systems through an academic and anthropologic view, there's a YouTube channel called Religion for Breakfast. Definitely check them out. All right, so let's start with Good Omens and how this topic ties into it. We literally start Good Omens in the Garden of Eden, correct?
Yes. In the beginning.
In the beginning.
There was Crowley and Aziraphale.
In the novel, the reader receives a secondhand version of the expulsion of Adam and Eve from the garden. Now, this differs from the show slightly as we are kind of more shown in the show than we're told.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back and I read this part of the novel because it's been a hot minute.
Right.
I believe in the first episode, right? It's more, we're kind of shown what happens, and then we get Aziraphale and Crawley at that point on the wall talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to, like,
in the novel, it's like after it happens, and they're discussing what happened after the fact.
So the main points we get from their conversation here is there's an apple, a wily serpent, an angel, two humans, and a choice that affects the rest of history. All right, so that's the Good Omens recap. So let's go into the biblical story itself.
I have one more thing that I just remembered about the Garden of Eden. Supposedly, God said it's all Eve's fault that women have painful times of the month, we'll say,
childbirth.
And childbirth. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty disrespectful, I'm going to say it. I feel like a lightning bolt's going to strike me right now, but...
So that is actually, we'll get into that in a little bit. Literally, this is found at the beginning of the Bible. The creation story as well. This isn't talked as much about in Good Omens. We just kind of start at the garden at the beginning. This, like we said earlier, is a very well-known Bible story, I would say, especially in, like, Christianized countries.
Mm-hmm.
It's well known of, but it's not super well understood. And the word Genesis literally means origin or coming into being. This is according to the Bible, A Historical and Literary Introduction.
Mm-hmm.
So let's kind of lay out the story bit by bit before we get farther into the weeds. So we're going to start with Genesis chapters 1 and 2, verses 1 through 3. So we have day 1. Heaven and earth are created. At this time the earth was formless, and darkness covered its waters. God said, "Let there be light," and there was. God decided this light thing was a good choice, and he chose to separate the light, which would be the day, from the dark, which would be the night, and the first day was created. Day 2. The sky, in the translation I have, is called the dome, is separated from the waters, which at this point, I question, were there waters like just all over the place?
It was just, life was just water.
Basically. Kind of how it started.
That's true.
That is true.
We are water in and of ourselves.
Well, but like most life started in the sea.
That's true.
I mean, that is... See, I didn't just learn biblical stuff in undergrad. That's day 2. Day 3. Land is separated from the water, sea, and plants were created on the land. Day 4. Sun, moon, and stars are created. Let me just put in here that in this creation story, we only have the earth at this point. Everything else is created later.
Yeah.
Then day 5, the sea critters and the birds were created. So we have things in the sky, we have light, we have water that's not part of the sky anymore. We have plants on the earth, we have land, we have birds and stuff, and we have sea animals.
Birds and stuff.
Do you think?
So sorry.
Do you think they would have counted bats in the birds and stuff?
Okay, I need to go on a side tangent.
Go ahead.
You just
Go ahead.
If you need to laugh, look up, oh gosh, what's the name of the show? I can't remember what the name of the show is, but on YouTube, look up dog, cat, bug, and water. And click on the first link. It's great. That's all I'm going to say. Just look it up.
Day 6 is the land critters are made. This is both the domestic and the wild. Cattle is mentioned twice.
Oh, God likes cows. They're very cute.
Forget whales, it's cow time. And then another little note that I've always gotten stuck on and have annoyed Sunday school teachers and professors alike. The humans were made in our image and given dominion over the animals depending on the translation.
Yeah.
At this point also, everything was eating vegetation. So at this point, like, the carnivores weren't eating meat. The people weren't eating meat. Everything was
just
eating
chowing down
grass.
on some plants. Yeah. Trees.
And then what happened on day 7?
God rested. Took a self-care day.
All right. So then that's often called the first creation. Then we have a retelling of it in the next chapter.
Oh. I did not know that.
It's fascinating. So Genesis chapter 2, starting at verse 4 all the way through chapter 3. So in this creation story, I'm not going to go into it as much detail as the first one, but there's some major points. Mm-hmm. There's a reversal of when the earth and the heavens were made, along with the plants, animals, and humans.
Oh.
I believe the heavens were first. I have to go back and look again, but man is made from the dirt.
Oh.
It's not, I don't remember it being specified in the first couple verses.
Okay. Just dirt.
But that's a very common, like, when you go to funerals,
ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Yeah.
From dirt I have came, from dirt I will return.
Right.
It's like in The Lion King when Mufasa's like, we eat the water. No, what are they called?
The antelope?
The antelope.
We eat the water.
I also water buffalo. We eat the antelope, and then we die, and then we become the grass, and then they eat us, and it's a circle. Anyways.
It's a circle of life.
It's a circle of life. Where was I? Oh. And this goes into a little more depth detail on the first humans. Our first human, who isn't named at this point, is made from the dirt or the clay, probably dirt. He is told that he can eat anything in the garden except from the fruit of the tree that contains the knowledge of good and evil.
I'm so sorry. I'm unhinged today. I just had this horrific image of him just chasing Eve around.
Eve doesn't exist yet.
Oh, that's true. Okay, that's good.
And
you can eat anything? No.
They weren't eating meat.
Oh, that's true. Okay. All right. So, I'm so sorry, guys.
I'll temper your worries there. Eve didn't exist yet, and they weren't eating meat yet. He's told he can eat anything, with the exception of the fruit that comes from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And the quote from the Bible was, "For the day you eat of it, you will die."
Oh.
We'll come back to that too. Then the animals didn't exist at this point, because it was just Adam, who we don't have a name for yet. We have the first man who's in the garden being very alone.
It's very sad.
So God's like, oh, you know what? I made this thing and now it's lonely.
It's like, oh no, what have I done? You can't just buy one pet. You have to get it a partner to, so they can't be alone. They must be housed together. Husbandry.
God forms all the animals because man is lonely.
Yes.
And then man names them all. And I'm sure that took a while.
Probably.
But there was still something missing. So then God puts the man into a deep sleep, which all I can think of is anesthesia.
I was just thinking that.
We're not going to go down the ancient aliens rabbit hole right now. And so he puts him into a deep sleep and pulls out a rib, which literally grows into a human female, as you pointed out earlier, that she was pulled from his rib.
Yes. I didn't realize he was meant to go to sleep then, though. I thought it just kind of was one of those, like...
God was nice enough to not have him awake for that.
Yeah.
They make a point to say that they were both naked and unashamed. We'll come back to that.
Okay.
Then we move to Genesis 3 through 4, and everything goes down like a lead balloon, to quote Crowley at that point.
Our favorite demon.
So we are introduced to the serpent. In my translation, he's described as crafty, but wily also fits in other translations.
Yes.
So that kind of probably was a direct quote.
Yeah.
So God is also credited with making him. Doing his serpent thing, and he comes up to the woman, and he asks her what trees can he eat from, and she replies, all but the tree of knowledge, otherwise she will die. You just become wise.
Oh.
God doesn't want you to eat from it because you will. The serpent is like, no, friend, you won't die. And Eve decides that, this fruit might be good for eating, and then shares it with her husband. Once again, I have Eve as her name in here. She's not called that yet.
Mm-hmm.
And bam, they both have knowledge and realize, crap, we need to make clothing, which is a wild first thing to worry about.
I mean, they could have been getting sunburnt.
That's true, but next thing we know, God comes meandering through the garden, and our people hide because being naked now makes them afraid of God.
So is this is God in some physical form?
It doesn't specify, but I would guess so because God is walking.
That's what I mean. I'm like, I don't think I've ever heard that in any, that he, she, they, it takes a physical form.
Technically, it's mentioned before, Moses got to look at God's back.
Oh.
Moses got to look at God's back, so it's implied there's a physical form.
Gotcha.
And when the Israelites were leaving Egypt, they followed a pillar of light or fire at night and a cloud by day. And that's ascribed to God, I believe, too.
Gotcha.
So
okay. Interesting.
I don't know if this is just Christian, Jewish, Muslim folklore or not, but to look at the face of God will cause you to die.
Oh.
But this is so early on that who knows?
Who knows? Right. That's interesting.
And it would make sense for ancient peoples to have a physical god in that area, because remember, a lot of their gods, they had idols they were worshiping. They were very much statues of things they were worshiping and venerating.
Okay.
All right, so then God's onto their stuff right away, and he's like, did you eat the only thing I told you not to? To which the man replies, she made me do it.
Of course he did.
To which the woman replies, okay, what is this fruit never called?
An apple.
It's never called an apple at all in the Old Testament. The serpent made me do it.
Huh. I'm going to say it's a pumpkin.
It's a pumpkin. Then the punishment is given out. Note the reverse order of interrogation. God starts with the serpent.
Mm-hmm.
The serpent is now crawling on its belly. That's specified.
Huh.
Was it not before?
Little wee legs.
Maybe. And there will be a feud between its descendants and the descendants of humankind.
I mean, makes sense. A lot of people are scared of snakes.
I think the exact wording was you will bite the heel of the children of man and they will stomp on your head or something along those lines.
Crush your head beneath their heel.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the serpent. The woman, like you said, childbirth will be painful, but she will still have a desire for her husband, and he will roll over her. She gets a short end of the stick.
Yeah, she does.
And then the man, he will have to work in the field for his food, and were returned to dust after death. Someone got easier punishment, but I want to come back to the idea that it's specified they'll die, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess it never says right away.
So they'll die, but like
Eventually.
maybe it's like a form of themselves die, and then eventually they in themselves will die.
Well, I think originally if they wouldn't have eaten the fruit, they probably would have lived forever.
Oh.
If they ate the knowledge fruit, I'm going to call it from now on,
Mm-hmm.
the pumpkin of knowledge,
The pumpkin of knowledge.
they will eventually die.
Okay.
That's, if there's anyone who understands that better than me, write us.
Write in. We have an email.
And an Instagram.
We do. Come visit us.
All right, so at this point, the woman is finally given a name, and her name is Eve, for she will be the mother of all.
Mm-hmm.
Another note I want to make. God expresses worries that now that the humans have knowledge, they will eat from the tree of life and live forever. Like God, whoever else God is talking to at this point, because God is talking to assumedly angels.
Mm-hmm.
And this tree of life is never mentioned before this. And actually, going back, maybe I'm contradicting my other point of that they will die. Maybe it's the two things together of an immortality and wisdom. Like you can have one but not the other.
I mean, yeah. I that kind of does make sense. Like, I think if a person was, I don't know. I just feel like that could potentially cause a lot of damage.
If they're immortal and wise,
And yeah,
as opposed to immortal and stupid.
I guess I don't know. Maybe I'm sorry, guys. I'm tired.
Well, but I also wonder, like, not trees and stuff aren't immortal, but they live very, very long. But they don't really do anything to hurt the environment around them. They're immortal. They're just there.
Yeah.
Not literally immortal, but like, I mean, there's what the Methuselah tree is like thousands of years old.
Yeah.
It's just there, just chilling.
Mhm.
Right.
But it's not. Yeah. I guess that's the thing is like if you're wise, you have thought
just
processes. If you have knowledge, you have the potential to do serious damage. If
And
that makes sense.
knowledge doesn't always mean using it well.
Yeah. Right. That I think that's what I'm trying to spit
Yeah.
out. Not doing it well.
Going back to our Bible story. So God gives them clothes, sends them out to the east of Eden, and places a cherubim with a flaming sword to guard the way to the tree of life at the eastern gate. Does that sound like someone you know?
It does. It sounds like our favorite angel.
And this is where the Garden of Eden ends. If you want to read on, it continues with the children of Adam and Eve and the first murder. Great read.
Yeah. That's Cain and Abel, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Ha-ha.
And there's lots of they have other children too, I believe.
Oh, okay.
There's a couple of other things that I want to kind of point out from either the Cliff Notes of my study Bible, knowledge that I have, and my other academic book I use. But before I do that, any thoughts or questions on the story of creation and the story of the Garden of Eden?
I don't think so far.
So, you remember how you mentioned that there were originally two humans?
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole tradition about a character named Lilith.
Yeah.
So, in the first story, and I didn't go into this in a lot of detail, in the first story, man and woman are made at the same time as equals, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Which is different from later on with the creation with the rib.
Right.
So there is a whole tradition about a character named Lilith that is connected to this first part of Genesis 1 and 2. We won't go into that today too much, but it's a very, very interesting thing to deep dive into.
That was actually going to be a question that I did have, and I won't ask that now. I was going to ask more about like where did this lady come from?
We can talk about that at the end.
Yes.
So just some fun note stuff to me. So this is extra notes from the HarperCollins Study Bible. The first few verses of chapter 1 talk about a chaotic state of things in the beginning, which is very similar to other creation myths, including Egyptian, Mesopotamian, and Greek traditions. The major difference here is that there is only one God doing all the creating instead of a pantheon.
Mm-hmm.
Also, interestingly, the heavenly bodies do not create light in the creation myth. They just govern it. Because remember, they were created after light. Light was created first.
Okay, yeah.
There's this created in our image line that scholars have debated. So at this time, when older sections of the Torah, so that's the first 5 books of the Bible, Genesis, Exodus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Leviticus, those are not in the right order. Deuteronomy should be last. So at the times when the older sections of the Torah were written, the people believed that there were other deities around besides the God of Israel. The God of Israel, Yahweh, was the most powerful. This and you can see it when you're reading the text. So I'm going to spoil something here. The Bible was not written by one person.
Yeah.
The Bible was written over thousands of years with hundreds and hundreds of writers. And you can tell by looking at how the writing has evolved over the different years. Even the same book. So Genesis, you can tell there's different writers.
Right.
Traditionally, those first 5 are ascribed to Moses.
Okay.
But you can tell there's different writers. So, but as you're reading some of the Old Testament, you can tell they believed there were other gods there. They just weren't as powerful as their God.
Right.
So that might be where the whole, they were created in our image.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
I also could be wrong, but once again, I don't think the word, he's never called Adam in the Old Testament. I mean, in that creation myth, he's called Adam later on.
Okay.
But I think Adam literally means man.
Okay.
He's never really named. So Adam is man.
I just picture hey, man.
Ever heard the story of how kangaroos were named?
So, no.
Australia was inhabited by Aboriginal peoples for years and years, thousands of years, right?
Yeah.
They had their very own really interesting culture.
Yeah.
And then Europe got there, and it was used as a prison colony by the UK, by England for years. And so the explorers get there, and they're asking the Aboriginal people, what is this thing when they see a kangaroo? The Aboriginal people are saying kangaroo, which means I don't understand.
They're no, that's okay.
What
Right.
is that? Not
oh no!
And then they're just yeah, kangaroo. One time about kangaroos. I'll have to fact check that. That's something I've read in fullness, which makes sense because it was
kangaroo,
a garden,
and they're oh, it's a kangaroo.
We just describe the name as a proper noun to it.
Mm-hmm.
So the creation of clothing signifies a change from people in question being more closely affiliated with nature to being more closely affiliated with culture and intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
This is echoed from the Epic of Gilgamesh, because I believe the Epic of Gilgamesh is a lot older. One of the main characters is Enkidu. So he's this wild man. He's this hairy wild man.
Mm-hmm.
And he is one with nature. He's just hanging out with the livestock or something like that.
Yeah.
And they want to kind of civilize him. So they send him a woman, and he knows her in the biblical sense. And all of a sudden he is civilized and he's wearing clothes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's how that works.
So it's the idea of having an intimate encounter with someone knowingly, and having clothes on then is what makes you civilized. There's a connection of sexuality, culture, and knowledge. And that's why it's kind of it's a taboo thing in our culture.
Yeah. The absolute soapbox I could get on right now, and I'm not going to do it.
Remember, though, we're looking at a text that is thousands of years old.
This is true.
So it doesn't necessarily apply. And I'm not invalidating your feelings.
I do agree with that, and we're not telling people what to believe. We're not telling people no. We're not saying anything like that. It's looking at it strictly from
an academic viewpoint, anthropologic.
Exactly, academic, historical, and this book was written by man, and man is fallible.
And this is also kind of the idea of we went from being somewhat a wild animals, humans, and now we have civilizations. What happened? And someone's clothing.
Clothing is what happened.
And different from us versus the animals. Well, they do have intimacy, but they don't wear clothing.
Yeah.
So that clothing and intimacy is called a Diogenes thing. Behold, a man.
Behold a man.
Holds my schnauzer in a sweater. The snake is never given a chance to defend itself.
That's very sad. I like snakes.
I think Eve kind of might be, but the snake is just kind of this is all your fault. Now you're going to suffer. So they're never actually given a chance to defend themselves.
Poor
and
Crowley.
It's implied that they can speak.
Yeah.
Because they spoke to Eve.
Eve just said nope.
So now moving on to the textbook that I use, the Bible, Historical and Literary Introduction. Mm-hmm. So according to the textbook, it describes the book of Genesis as being almost completely about stories don't send me hate, but I love this description because it's stories about how did humans get to where we are when we didn't have the scientific knowledge we have now.
Right.
It's a story about why are we not like animals? Why are we here? That's the question everyone asks. Like,
I mean, that's where legends and myth and different things come from is, humans have been forever trying to answer questions that they might not always have the knowledge at that moment to answer. And it's interesting.
And I absolutely love creation stories because humans are so creative. We don't know, so we're going to make up this really interesting narrative about why we are where we are and how we got here and why we do the things we do. And that's just it's so cool to look at.
Yeah. Well, and this is maybe me personally. I kind of wonder how much some of these stories have credence versus don't have credence because in the human aspect of like so many people believe this. So how is it that I guess I shouldn't say that too loud because there's a lot of dictators we could talk about in history who and believe really horrible things that weren't true.
So the creation story and the Garden of Eden are found in a section called the Primeval History because it's the very beginning history. Also, as seen in Good Omens, there's a lot of debate over when creation actually happened and how old the earth is. Whole scene about these people debated that. Almost the main points were in my textbook in like a thing. It was really cool.
What was it? James Usher and that was all these different high educated peoples were trying to figure out the exact date and time of creation.
Yeah. And here's the last one. This is a major misconception that the snake in the Garden of Eden was Satan. Never
actually mentioned that.
Yeah, it's never alluded to that it's Satan. It's just a wily serpent. Now, it was attributed to Satan, but it's interesting. The first temptation might not have even been him. By the devil.
He was like, I'm going to send one of my minions up there. I'm sitting on this throne. I'm comfortable.
It doesn't even say it's a demon. That's the thing. It says it's a serpent.
That's true.
So it was just a really bored snake who just wanted to make a friend.
He's like, I just want to be a homie. And now I'm apparently at war with the humans. It's very sad. They don't like me anymore.
And that also implies that the snake had free will. And could the other animals talk at that point? I have lots of questions. Maybe.
Oh, man.
They stopped talking.
That's true. They could talk to dogs. I would love to talk to dogs. I mean, I talk to dogs anyway.
They're probably easier to
actually hear them talk back.
So I have some thoughts to wrap up. And this is just kind of my interpretation of the story. Once again, this is my personal thoughts on the text. Any belief systems that I may hold personally aside, to me, this is very much a way for ancient people to explain how they came to be on this planet, along with the rest of the life around them, and how the planet came to be. It's a creation story. It explains why humans feel they are at the top of the food chain, and it validates this belief. It also is a way to explain consciousness and knowledge. Why do we act differently than cattle or horses or dogs? Along with explaining why childbirth is painful, and why we have to work the land to live, and why humans are so distant from the deity in the Abrahamic religions, Christian, Judaism, and Muslim. Why are we so distant from our creator main deity? It also establishes a gender hierarchy for better or for worse. And in general, we don't like not knowing things.
Right.
So that's why I think these kinds of stories can be so powerful. It's a way to fill in those blanks and make sense of the world around us.
Yeah.
So what are you had some closing thoughts and questions that you alluded to earlier.
Well, first of all, that whole ending was beautiful.
Thank you. I wrote it myself.
Yes, it was great. And that's a lot of how I feel as well. Like, I'm not going to get into, like, what I believe or don't believe in personally, because I just don't feel like this is a proper space to do that. But I agree 100% with what you're saying. I think whatever anyone wants to believe, as long as you're not hurting anyone, that's valid. We're here to support that. We're just chatting about this specific story.
Exactly, right? Because it's not our job to tell you what to believe or even, to put on what our personal beliefs are. Like Christiana said, I think beliefs are so intrinsic and important to people that as long as you're not using them to hurt yourself or someone else.
Amen.
Go for it.
Yep. Do that thing. Their question was about that I was going to ask, and we don't have to go into this because I know this is a whole, like, separate topic. But no, about Lilith, because I've heard about Lilith, and I've heard she was the female human created before Eve, but I didn't know how much, like, I've never read that, and now granted I haven't read the Bible cover to cover either, so.
I think that has to do a lot more with ancient Israelite, and it wouldn't even be Jewish at that point, ancient Israelite folklore.
Ah, okay.
She's never mentioned by name in creation. Lilith is not directly mentioned in the book of Genesis. Lilith might be mentioned by name in some of the later Old Testament, or I'm not exactly sure where it would come up in the Old Testament, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not directly pulled back to Genesis. I think this has a lot, and I'm talking kind of pulling things out of my brain without any sources right now to double check this. Lilith kind of comes about in like ancient Israelite Jewish folklore.
Mm-hmm.
So back to creation. We have the account where man and woman are made at the same time. And then we have this random account where woman comes from man. And this is another kind of explanation.
Mm-hmm.
So the story, quote unquote, and I have no clue if this comes from any of the apocryphal extra Jewish texts like Jubilees or Enoch or anything like that. I'm not sure where this comes from. I'm sure it comes from somewhere, or like rabbinic writings.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the story is that Lilith was the first wife, the first woman of Adam, and she was kicked out of the Garden of Eden because she wanted to have equal power to Adam in intimate moments.
Mm-hmm.
And wanted to be equal status. That's what I remember hearing.
Yeah.
And that apparently wasn't the thing. So she was just trying to be too equal to him, is what I remember. So then she was kicked out of the Garden of Eden. Hello, Bree here with a quick trigger warning. There will be some discussion on infant death and sudden infant death syndrome, along with a brief mention and discussion on sexual assault. And there's, to the best of my knowledge, there's some like folklore about her being almost like a vampire-ish demon that is responsible for stillborn infant deaths.
Oh.
And there's a lot of like other, like maybe more pop cultures what we're getting into now of Lilith being like the wife of Lucifer and the mother of demons and that kind of stuff.
Huh.
I don't have any sources to pull up on that. The YouTube channel I mentioned earlier, Religion for Breakfast, I'm pretty sure that he has a video on Lilith.
Ooh.
I will double check that, but I'm pretty sure I watched it.
I'll have to look for that, because this almost sounds like in and of itself, it's
fascinating.
It's really interesting, and like, seriously guys, trigger warning here, because I don't know like a more delicate way to say this. Trigger warning, trigger warning, trigger warning. It almost sounds as though she is like the matron saint of women who have been like raped, in a sense. You know what I mean? Like, to me, when it's described that way, it's almost like, you know, he was basically just able to do whatever he wanted with her whenever he wanted, and she was like, no, I'm sick of this. Like, I'm sick of...
So that's an interpretation that I haven't heard, actually. Yeah. Because from what I was understanding, it was that she was wanting to initiate.
Oh.
And wanted to be the one in charge.
Oh, okay.
She is a feminine power symbol at this point, though.
Yeah.
Of women wanting to be, and I don't just mean that in like, you know, the bedroom thing.
Yeah, like wanting to be equal to their counterpart.
Yeah. There's like a whole Lilith music festival.
Okay, I like that version much better.
I never thought of it that way, and I don't know enough to say yes or no.
Yeah, I think about that time period and how that, I mean, it still happens a lot today. I'm not saying it happens any less, but in that time period, I think it was also a lot more accepted to just, and to think of a woman in that position, like that were in that position. I wonder, they were seeing that story as this woman who was, you know, tried to fight against that, and then like, look what happened to her type of thing, as a way to like get themselves through it. You know, if that makes any kind of sense.
I don't have much of an answer for you. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I just, that's... Whew.
But yeah, but then she would have never had like human children. I think that's kind of what has almost the whole vampiric, an explanation for SIDS, like sudden infant death syndrome, basically.
Yeah.
Almost taking revenge on Adam and Eve by taking revenge on their descendants.
Oh, man.
So it's like...
discovering why this is happening. That's what I was trying to say.
a good question, and it could be another topic to dive into. And I apologize if anything I've said is not factual. I'm going off the top of my head from memories here, which isn't always easy. What other questions, thoughts?
I think those were my big ones. Just learning more about Lilith, and again, agreeing with everything you said in your kind of
my summary.
Your summary.
My conclusion.
It's been an interesting topic to talk about.
And if you like these kinds of things, let us know. As you've probably noticed, my forte is a little bit more in religion, folklore, anthropology, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Christiana's has a vast array of other ones.
I'm very interested in like more recent history, we'll say. I'm interested in all history, but my forte is a little more within the last 200 years.
As opposed to mine, which is thousands of years ago.
But
we cover it all.
We cover it all. And if there's anything that you've heard us discussing either in our little Aziraphale's Extra Research segments or in any of our other episodes, let us know. We're happy to at least consider going into some deep dives about it if it's something that everyone's really interested in.
And if we don't know about it, it's a great opportunity to learn more.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but in some of the research I've done, I've learned some really interesting things that I either forgot or just never really knew before.
Mm-hmm. We like learning.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed our foray into our prior podcast, Sauntering Vaguely Podwards. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a suggestion for a strange or mysterious topic, a comment about an episode, or just want to chat, please reach out.
You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Audible, and YouTube. Comment directly on episodes on Spotify and YouTube, or leave a review of the podcast as a whole on either Spotify or Apple Podcasts.
Find us on Instagram at something_strangepod, on Facebook at Something Strange Podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at something_strangepod, and check out our strange content over at TikTok at somethingstrangepod01.
You can also send us a Gmail at somethingstrangepod24@gmail.com, and the 24 is numeric.
Well, strangers, it's time for us to part ways.
Until we meet again, keep on sauntering strangely.
We'll be back again soon with another Something Strange.